Hello, and welcome to the Bad to Politic. I'm Scott Stearns.
Good evening. This is Paul Sickle.
Hey, Paul. Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary. Clink, clink.
Hey, clink, clink. We have made it 1 year.
1 year.
How we've grown. Do you remember hanging out and doing the first podcast with some makeshift equipment that we had gathered up, and playing with audio levels and trying to make things work?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I just think we were using my computer.
Yeah, we were using your computer and some headsets that you were able to acquire, and the levels were a little
It was
off.
about 4 hours for 30 minutes worth of time.
Something like that. Yeah, I think we recorded and then took the gems that we could.
We're much less diligent now, or we don't need to be.
Maybe we're just we're that good, or maybe we think we are. I don't know.
So what's new, Scott?
Well, the Bucks had a bad night.
Yeah, that was bad.
They got off to a bad start. They played.
Yeah, Washington.
They played the Washington Wizards.
Just ahead of them. They lost at home by 3 in the end. I think that, obviously their defense is what is most questionable, which is interesting because last year that was kind of a strength.
Yeah.
Of course, they traded Monroe and got a shooter in exchange, and now they've got they've got 3 shooters plus Giannis, who's just a force. But I think Giannis is the only one of those 4 big players that plays any defense.
Well, he tried to really take ownership of the game because they got off to such a slow start. I mean, the first quarter was like Washington outscored them 40-22, and then the Bucks outscored them in the second and third quarters, and then matched them in the fourth. But it was not enough. They lost 107-104. So they're still a 6th seed at this point. Yeah. We're at the end of February.
Parker is a beautiful offensive player, but his defense is not very good.
Yeah.
I don't think he fits in the Bucks' future, honestly.
No? You don't think so?
I think it's, he's spectacular on offense, and I think somebody will give him the money.
Right.
And I think that you've got 2 really good shooters in Bledsoe and Middleton. Mm-hmm. You got, what's his name, Giannis, who's just a force, and it really is developing a shot. He's just amazing.
Yeah.
You need players like Brogdon who are just like fundamentally really good, or like get back and play a lot of D and like make a lot of steals and stuff like that. I think you really need that, and I'm not sure Parker. I mean, for the money. I mean, if he didn't want like a big ass max contract, I'd say sure, but I'd rather honestly worry about keeping Middleton and Bledsoe with Giannis on the same team.
Right.
I mean, none of those guys are old.
No, that's
true. Let that thing develop.
Yeah.
And so I like Parker a lot. I don't think he fits with the
long
Bucks
term. Is
need.
Not the solution.
Yeah, I think he reminds me a lot like his style of play, like Big Dog, just really spectacular offensively.
But the defense
a little
is not
slow
there.
on the defense.
Yeah.
And you know what? Had we not gotten Bledsoe for Monroe, then it wouldn't have been such a big deal.
Right.
Because Monroe would be cleaning up the boards. His awful shooting would be whatever it is. Mm-hmm. But at least then you'd have a scoring force in the form of Parker. But we felt like we couldn't wait that long into the season into having 3 scoring threats. So it felt like we had to go for it. And we did. So
there you go.
Yeah.
So there's your sports update. I mean, the Brewers are in spring training.
You know the pitcher.
Yeah.
Starter.
They beat the Reds today. So
they're doing great in spring training. But
it's never indicative of what the
Packers went 3-1 in the preseason last year too. So there you go.
Their quarterback was healthy.
Well, actually they weren't playing with him.
That's true.
So not much.
Yeah.
So let's get to the nitty gritty here.
Yeah, so there's obviously a number of issues that are still evolving. The gun debate is still at the forefront of the news. Mm-hmm. It hasn't dropped off like other mass shootings. These high school students down in Florida and other places around the country are keeping this issue alive.
Which is
no thanks to the politicians that say they want to do something about it.
Well, I would actually, though, say that Trump's kept the issue alive by proposing things like arming the teachers instead of actually getting
that's
the job done.
That's what. Here's the thing: is when it comes to that, because that's gotten a lot of attention. There's been a lot of talk about arming teachers, and
all of a sudden, Trump's approval rating, which had been in a sustained recovery,
is now sliding back down into the 35%
we've
territory.
We've even made some gains back up on the generic ballot.
Yeah,
not enough, but we've made some. We're back to about a good 8-point lead.
He's endorsing an idea that the majority of people are like, that's crazy. And but the other thing is the reason why they're making the issue of armed guards or arming teachers at the forefront of this debate is because they want to slow walk it. They want to slow walk it in hopes that in a few weeks the American people will lose interest or something else will come up. North Korea will do something, or there'll be something with Russia, or there'll be something with trade, or what have you. Something that'll conquer the headlines, and then the gun debate will again sink into the news hole.
Right.
So it's all about just focusing on distracting the American people to focusing on one aspect of the issue and forgetting about waiting periods and background checks and the assault weapons ban.
So is this something Tammy Baldwin could use against her eventual Republican
I would think so.
Problem is they won't have been in the Senate, so you won't have a voting record for them.
Right.
But what if we want to say, Kevin Nicholson said that arming teachers might be a good idea or something, or tie him to Trump.
Hammer him on
Do we have that? I don't know. That's the thing. I hope so. I really do. And I think one of the things I want to see the gubernatorial candidates really do with Walker is tie him to Trump, too.
Sure.
The only candidate I see consistently around here doing that is Randy Bryce. And,
he had a big event this week.
He has the most momentum. So there you go.
Yeah.
He should be running for governor, in my opinion. But
he had a big event. Bernie Sanders came out to where was it? It was in Racine.
Yeah,
and
Memorial Hall, huge, about 3,000 people. They said
big turnout. So that was good to see. So Randy's running quite the campaign.
That's great,
and it's great to see. There's a lot of passion around it.
And Randy. I know Randy pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
I called him many times, just. To come to things we were doing about right to work. And he would answer the phone while he's up on a beam.
Yeah.
And literally, he would. and he would answer it as much as he could, and he would get right back to me if he missed a call.
Yeah.
And he would show up. There's a picture of him that's kind of like, I think the Republicans actually like to use it, of him giving a little speech in the state capitol, and they get locked out of a hearing.
Oh, really?
And I'm the one who told him, gave him directions what room we were in, and I got him up there.
Yeah.
And that's not a testament to me. That says nothing about me. It says about Randy. He's just so, just some kind of random organizer that he met a couple times was interested in following what he was doing, or was somebody he would respond to.
Yeah.
So
good. Well, it seems like there's still remains a lot of momentum around his campaign. So, but all indications are that Paul Ryan is not dropping out. At least not to this point. So
you'll set up a fun race in the fall.
Yeah, no, it should be interesting.
I think Randy gets it.
Yeah, I think so too. And he's got national attention around this campaign, so it's good to see. In other Wisconsin news, so NBC News reported tonight, or this afternoon actually, that the U.S. intelligence community has evidence that several state websites or voter registration systems in 7 states were compromised by Russian-backed covert operations prior to the 2016
those 7
election.
States, please.
Yes, I can. I will locate that momentarily.
Well, was Wisconsin one of them?
Wisconsin was one of them.
Yeah. Okay, that says a lot then. So they got in. Did they change my vote? Did I actually vote for Jill Stein, even though I filled in the oval next to Hillary Clinton?
Well, when you hear a report like this, it definitely shakes your confidence about whether or not you maybe did. But the 7 states are Alaska, Arizona, California, Florida, Illinois, Texas, and Wisconsin. Yeah. So yes, they were hacking into election databases, and the feds and the states are in agreement that no voter registration was compromised and no votes were changed.
So I still voted for Hillary. Good.
Supposedly, yeah, based on all reporting. But still,
I guess it wasn't enough. I needed to get 25,000 of my friends.
It shakes your confidence, though. Like, okay, that's what they were able to do. They were able to gain a point of entry in 2016. What does 2018 look like? What does 2020 and beyond look like? It definitely does not give you confidence that our election systems are being protected. And the states are, to this point, I believe, outside of Illinois, are not even admitting that the hacking attempts even occurred.
In 4 minutes, right from now, by the time you listen to this, you'll see I posted a fun ad. You know, everybody acts like these, hacking is such a novel concept. Oh, who would have ever thought they could have done this? And, maybe we should do people used to say, oh, we should just do electronic voting, like going to your ATM.
Yeah.
And it was always puzzled me. I mean, we wasted like the entire 2000s. You know,
everything after Florida 2000.
Right.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, well, you won't have the butterfly ballots with the hanging chads or whatever.
Just vote like you do at an ATM.
Yeah. Well, I think that should have been obvious to anybody that could be hacked because it was right after the Y2K thing happened. And I put a little ad, have some fun watching it. It's pretty funny. It's from 19 years ago. About what New Year's Eve going into 2000 could look like.
Sure. I mean, well, the lesson being is that we need to take our security seriously, and we need to make sure that our voting systems are protected.
Right.
And we need to have paper ballots. I think, at least in the Milwaukee area, I mean, I can't speak for the rest of the state, but I like the fact that, you know, when we go to vote in the city of Milwaukee, we still have a paper ballot, and you take a pencil and you fill in a line next to the candidate that you support.
An oval. I don't think you voted recently.
Oh, you're right. It is an oval now. It used to be a line. Yeah.
And
but regardless, it's a Scantron system, essentially. So you put it into a machine, and it's auditable.
Hopefully they don't burn those ballots.
Right. Well, I believe they're still stored. They're still stored at a secure facility, as far as I understand. But
now that they fired the state elections board person,
right, they're in the process of
they'll find some way to burn all the paper ballots from high Democratic performing wards.
Right, it'll just be like a cost savings thing. Like, well, why do we have all these facilities for all these archives? We should just sell them and redevelop them.
People like me don't like living in the suburbs, and so where I live, it's always like 60 to 80 to 90% Democratic voting. And, that's a good way to make sure my ballot will get burned.
Sure.
Just kidding.
But the point being is that, I mean, we need to make sure we have these paper ballots. We need to make sure that our election systems are locked down. I mean, why is the elections commission of the state of Wisconsin accessible outside the United States? Mm-hmm. Is there a legitimate reason for that? Because I don't think there is. There's a way. I mean, clearly it is based on the reporting that we're seeing today.
But how much web technology is intentionally accessible in the wrong hands?
Well, I don't know. I mean, the thing is that if you post something on a website, it's accessible unless you take steps to lock it down.
Right.
Because of how the web works. I don't see any legitimate reason why.
You don't think anybody tried to lock it down? They got hacked.
Based on what we know today, it's not locked down. Otherwise, it would not be accessible from external IP addresses in places like Russia.
What if they hacked it? I mean, didn't they hack it?
No. If the firewall says, like, if you don't have a US IP address, you cannot get in.
Oh, okay.
So that's basically what needs to happen. Now, there may be a legitimate reason why it's accessible outside the U.S. It's probably related to embassies and expatriates and that kind of thing. If you're registering as an expat outside the country, maybe there's a reason why you have to have a port of entry.
What if a good Russian hacker comes to the United States and
does
true.
It? I mean, they could do it internally. I mean, you're correct there.
That's somebody who's good at.
But are we not reducing risk by just locking out any external?
I suppose.
Addresses?
I mean, I guess they said that we keep looking at the Leningrad with the spam farm or whatever that they had and with the fake news. But then again, they're just generating content.
Yeah,
probably content convincing people to vote for the person running against Rebecca Bradley, vote for Scott Walker or not Rebecca Bradley, Rebecca Dallett. Rebecca
Dallett.
I mean, Bradley's unfortunately not on any ballot soon. Vote for Vote for the right, Rebecca.
Yeah.
Rebecca Dallard. But now, and speaking of courts, we have pretty bad news to talk about today.
Right.
The United States Supreme Court yesterday, they gave a kind of a stay for DACA, which was encouraging. Today, they did the opposite and then some. They took it to 11 with this ruling that you can indefinitely detain immigrants, even undocumented immigrants, even those with permanent legal status.
Yeah. 5-3 ruling on Tuesday. So Elena Kagan recused herself because she was serving.
Should have been the fourth no vote.
Yeah.
But still wouldn't have been enough.
So she recused herself because of her relation to the case. That, again, the whole thing with Merrick Garland not getting the time of day.
That was Obama's appointee that they refused to give hearings to for a year.
Right. So
and then they were able to get Trump, who was not elected by a popular majority, to put his righty on there.
Sure. So,
and now this guy just instituted, with that vote, they instituted a policy of literally indefinite detention with no right to a hearing for immigrants.
I mean, it reminds me. It's
an assault on human rights. It's an assault. Sure. There's no due process, according to this, for detained immigrants. And it's that you don't have.
And it's even the fact that it's even with people with permanent legal status. So you have a fucking green card here, and if they decide that
we want to put you in jail,
right?
And then
where is your due process?
If they don't want to prosecute you because they don't have evidence, they just don't like you. They can just keep you in jail
hypothetically,
as long as they want, according to the United States Supreme Court. That's the law of the land, right?
That's ridiculous.
I mean, could be as bad as the Dred Scott decision if it was abused enough. I mean, that would be a little bit of this. That's a stretch, but it's along those lines for sure. I mean, it's a human rights abuse that was just condoned by the United States Supreme Court today.
And even if the practical application of it is that, well, we're not going to hold these people indefinitely because we're going to have resource constraints and we're going to want to adjudicate them so that we make a decision of whether or not that they can stay or whether or not they should go. Still, the fact that the court ruling kind of leaves that precedent in place to empower the government to say honestly, whether or not it does empower them to hold these people indefinitely, and that's a terrible thing.
If another country did issued the same ruling, would not the American State Department issue a travel warning about going to that country?
Well,
like you don't have the right to a hearing to get out of jail if you're on your holiday or whatever, or just whatever, in another country. There are countries that do that, where you can be detained, maybe because unfairly, quite unfair, or fairly, whatever, but you get no right to a hearing.
Yeah.
That's not something that the Western world does, last I checked, or what we thought was the Western world. That's not the rule of law as far as I can tell. It's nationalism and then some.
So Justice Sam Alito wrote for the majority, and he said, quote, "Immigration officials are authorized to detain certain aliens in the course of immigration proceedings while they determine whether those aliens may be lawfully present in the country."
And while has no time limit. It could be the rest of your life.
Exactly.
Exactly. That's what they wanted to do.
So,
or they forgot about you.
It's a terrible thing. And,
it's chilling.
We're obviously today, we don't know what the repercussions of this ruling will be.
It tells me, like, you put this together with, like, their anti-union thing, which I think is a really selective reading of the First Amendment, which is they had the hearing yesterday on the Janus case. You put this together with also what's going on in Georgia, where they at Delta decided to not sponsor the NRA, not give a freebie away to the NRA.
Yeah.
And now the Georgia lawmakers are blackmailing Delta Airlines basically by taking away their tax credits or something to force them to fund the NRA, which then funds Republican politicians, which are the people in Georgia.
Right.
You look at this is like the idea of actual open democracy is really under siege right now.
Yeah.
Like the rule of law in a democracy seems to be under siege.
Well, yeah, and it's exactly.
This is a scary point there was a lot of momentum coming out in the last year, which I've enjoyed, during the Badger politic. And I hope until maybe there'll be a Supreme Court ruling saying we're not allowed to criticize the Supreme Court anymore. The way they read the Constitution, who knows? Yeah. But I mean, I've enjoyed this a lot, and I've enjoyed the resistance a lot.
Yeah.
But there's always been that specter hanging over everybody's head that that they're going to consolidate power and really trample on the rights of people. And we're starting to see that really happen.
Well, I think, there's obviously a lot of people that have gotten...
that was happening from day one, but they're really they're really firming up their grip now.
Right.
And they've got the Supreme Court. And there's many more cases to be decided there.
Right. And it covers everything from campaign finance to the gerrymandering cases around the country, and we still don't know how the Supreme Court's going to come down on that. That's a few months away. That's going to directly impact the redistricting here in Wisconsin.
Yeah, I'm not optimistic about that gerrymandering ruling, especially after seeing this.
Well,
today, Breyer.
I hold out hope that Kennedy's going to come down
maybe
and on the right side of it, but we don't, there's no guarantees. I agree.
It seems like they're just interested in consolidating power for very conservative people, and between the courts, between Trump, who's completely even further remaking the courts. I don't know. Open America, like a free country as we were raised in, may be in doubt here. And they say freedom isn't free. That's usually used to get people motivated to fight the enemies out foreign. But sometimes there's domestic enemies.
Well, it definitely gives you pause. When we're living through a government that was elected with a minority of the vote. Talking about Trump with
46%, and then 2.9 million fewer.
And then the House of Representatives is majority Republican, but it doesn't necessarily mean all the majority of the districts. Have voted
heavily
gerrymandered. The Senate favors rural areas because
Wyoming has the same power
as California, and so right now you can make a legitimate argument that the United States is in a very undemocratic place.
Yeah, it really is.
And so we need to continue to keep up the fight. And I know we're going to continue doing this thing, and I hope our listeners will continue to stay involved.
Go a little further underground. Like we were saying, undisclosed location, kind of humorously before about where we are. But, we said undisclosed location in Milwaukee. Now I'm going to say undisclosed location in Wisconsin.
Or the Midwest.
Well, you gotta
keep on expanding the scope.
Yeah. Let's do Wisconsin so we've got more places to escape to after.
Yeah.
All
right.
As we exercise our freedom of speech,
exactly,
while it lasts.
Yes. So we're gonna continue on. We're 1 year in. We started out as we were the Blue Cheese podcast and Blue Cheese State, and then we became the Badger Politic. I think about a month in, and changed providers. We've come a long way. I think we've done some good. I think if we changed one vote. Or at least made a few people more likely to vote, then I feel like we've done our job.
So more alert.
Exactly.
Woke means more than that. So I don't want to co-opt the phrase, but you know what? Stay vigilant because democracy is under siege.
This will be a big year. Right. There's a lot going on. We've got the Supreme Court race here in Wisconsin coming up in a few weeks on April 3rd. Make sure you're registered to vote. Make sure you come out and vote.
And vote for Dallin. If you value freedom.
We'll have the U.S. Senate race. We've got the governor's race. We've got a lot to talk about leading into the latter part of the year. So, thank you, listeners. Thank you for all your support this past year. And forward.